So I'm about to put my torque converter on. So on the torque converter, there's this little nub on the front side of it, and that slides in here like that, and you have 1, 2, 3 bolts that holds the torque converter on. Just to show you guys what I'm talking about. So here you have the little nub, and here you have the 3 holes where the torque converter goes onto the flywheel. So be sure you line up these holes with the correct holes on the flywheel. Okay, so the best spot to get these torque converter bolts put in is through the back side here, and you're going to want to do that because up here you got the corner of the block, and in order to get to it easier, you're going to have to pull out the starter. Hey guys, I'm back. Got the transmission in place. It was a pain in the ass, and I got the transfer case hooked up with it. Got it supported by a piece of 2x4 for now. That's about where it sits. I'm going to raise up the back a little bit so it can like be more level, but I'm hoping I'm able to use my old cross member, because there you got the mount, and here you have the old bolts. You have that one there, and the one up there, and the other two, and it lines up pretty much perfect. So I'm going to see if I can use the old cross member to my old transmission, and it should just bolt right up to my old frame. As far as the LS goes, I got the motor mounts in place. I have them just tack welded for now, so I'm going to plate the sides here and beef it up a little bit. I might like plate the front here and then weld it down that way and get some thicker gauge metal for that, because I really don't trust this, but I just have this sitting here for now. So as far as the transmission goes, you have a little nub down here inside of the engine, and that's what lines up the transmission. There's one on the other side as well. Then you slide those in place, and you go ahead and put your bolts on. Now, this transmission has about 8 bolts. My engine only has 6 threaded holes for the bolts. So this engine came off of, I think, is an earlier model. The transmission came off of 2001 GMC. So, you come up top here. So up top here, you have this bolt, and you have this bolt. They don't exist on the engine block, so these two you will not be using. But the bottom ones, the one on that side, and then the one underneath that, and then on the other side as well. And then there's a couple more bolts on the bottom side. And then you have the torque converter. So here you have the torque converter. So you spin the flywheel until the torque converter bolt comes right about here, and that's how you access it. So you take off your starter, you take off your plastic bell housing in order to get to your torque converter bolts. Now there's 3 of them, and you're going to want to tighten them all up, and you're going to want to keep rotating the flywheel until you get all 3 of them tight. Okay, so here you have the transfer case, and notice the yoke is different. My old one was a U-joint, and this one is a sleeve. So I'm going to get a drive shaft off of a GMC just like this one. I was going to use my old drive shaft, but it's old and worn out, and plus I'll have to take the U-joint off and put a sleeve on it. And then if you come back here, you have the yoke on the differential, and I did some measurements from here to there is about 3 feet, and my old drive shaft is 4 feet, and that depends on the slip joint. So when I get the new drive shaft, I'm going to have it shortened, and I wouldn't recommend you do it at home because it requires balancing and requires certain welding and engineering. Now that my transfer case is a driver's side drop, and it's a slip yoke as well, this axle is not going to work anymore because, as you can see, it's passenger side drop. So I'm going to get one that is a driver's side drop, which the Chevys have them, Jeeps have them, but a lot of them are 35s, and I want to go with at least a 44. And then I'm thinking I want to see if I can find a 14 bolt. If not, 12 bolt is my minimum. I don't want to do 10 bolt because they're too small and they're too cheap, and they've been known to break a lot. But I'm going to see if I can find a 12 or a 14 bolt. That'll be a lot better. And I'm going to mock it up. And I'm going to keep the leaf springs for now. But later on down the road, I want to do a 4-link and Dana 60s. But for now, I'm just going to do the 44s. I'm going to keep the leaf springs. Not a whole lot changes on the power steering. So here you have the pressure valve, and here you have the return valve. And on the GM, you have the pressure valve here, and you have the return line down here. Now the return line here hooks up to this line on the steering box, and this line right here hooks up to this line on the steering box. So keep that in mind. Don't get these mixed up because otherwise your power steering won't work. And originally my alternator was down here and all the plugs for it is right here. But now it's over here, I'm going to have to extend the wires, which I have to anyway because none of the plugs are going to match up anymore. So be sure you extend the wires and do the wires the right gauge for the alternator. So here I have the alternator terminal. I might just use a smaller wire and get the same gauge wire because this already runs throughout the whole cab. So I don't feel like changing this out. So I might just do the smaller wire. Alright, this is as far as I'm going to go for this video. If you liked it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos. Thanks for watching.